Today I'm reviewing Choose Your Own Adventure, House of Danger, the card game, board game, the game. It's a cooperative card game, or again, the game maker calls it a cooperative adventure game for ages 10 and up for one or more players. The way I design these reviews is to make the best use of your time as possible. I'll start by telling you the review rating that I give it, a little bit about my own play experience, and then I get more into the weeds, so feel free to hop off at that point if you're not interested. But I like that part where I get to talk about, kind of from a game design perspective, what I liked, what I did not like, and what I would change. So to get started, what do I give this? I give it 4 out of 5 stars. I really had a good time with it. Me and my wife played this together, and the way that they have it designed is there's a series of cards. I think there's 5 chapters in this game, and the cards for each chapter are shrink wrapped together. So you can just go one chapter at a time and play through it that way. And that's exactly what we did. One night we played 2 chapters, we set it down for a week, we came back, we played another chapter, one chapter at a time for the most part, and then actually we forgot about this game for like 2 months, came back, and we got to play the final chapter. And each time you go through, there are certain cards and abilities that you pick up along the way. I don't want to spoil anything here, but there are just some really great mechanics that they've built into this, where at the beginning of the game, you can choose, of course, your own adventure. You can go through, pictured on the box here, you've got a garden that you can go through, and you've got all kinds of different consequences for each decision you make in the garden, in the house, and beyond. And then by the end of the game, the very, very end, depending on all the decisions that you've made, you will have certain abilities, certain items, and also you'll be in a certain maybe location. And so all those things, it'll say, hey, if you have these cards, flip to this card, you're going to get this ending. And so I think there's like 5 different endings that are possible, actual endings, because a lot of these endings is, oh, you went through the wrong door, you're dead, right? And so you got to start over. And they've got a great mechanic for that. That is the danger meter. So each time you die, you have to reset or go back a few spaces. And so that means that you're less likely to win an encounter. And so you roll a die, there's a little bit of a chance element to it. There's a cooperation because it's multiple people making the decision. It's a lot of fun. It's a great time. I know that they've got a couple of the Choose Your Own Adventure boxes. I haven't played any of them except for this one, but I imagine that the game mechanics on those is very similar. It's just a different way of playing. If you're the type of person who is interested in something like Dungeons and Dragons, but you don't have a big group to play with, this kind of scratches that itch, because the card design, the game design, kind of takes the place of a DM. So instead of having, and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, don't play Dungeons and Dragons, essentially the DM is the host, right? So you don't need a host because the game plays the role of the host. They know all the paths, they've architected all the different options that you could play. That said, I'll relate this again to Dungeons and Dragons in that it is a bit more complex than your average game. There's a lot of, as I mentioned, cards that you're going to be collecting and setting aside. There's various abilities. There's a little bit of dice rolling. It's a very, very simple version. I don't want to scare anybody away with the Dungeons and Dragons comparison. It's very simplified and stripped back compared to Dungeons and Dragons, but compared to something like Mousetrap or Sorry, or a classic easy family board game that you might be used to, it's a bit more complicated than that. But I do think that their 10 plus age rating on this is correct. A 10-year-old could play this with family or with an older sibling who can kind of help guide them through it and make a little bit more sense of the decisions and help advise. From a game design perspective, I'll just talk about the materials really quick. It's got a really nice feel to it. It's got a nice weightiness because there are just so many cards in here, which, as somebody who's working right now on creating a card game, I can tell you cards get expensive and the weightiness gets expensive to ship. So when somebody does make that sacrifice and makes that decision to get something that's got more cards, more heft to it, I really appreciate that. So here's what it looks like on the inside. There is your game board, and then you've also got clue cards. You've got your various game pieces, and then you've got all your story cards, and this acts as the actual book. You're familiar with the Choose Your Own Adventure books. Instead of saying hey, go to page so and so, it'll say flip over card such and such. So there is a little bit of reading involved here, which can be really fun. At first, my wife and I didn't quite know what to expect as we were playing this. And then as we kept going along, we started using different character voices and really getting into it. There's an opportunity for this to be a lot of fun if you're into that kind of thing. Certain people maybe read for certain roles, and you get to take turns making decisions as you go along. Cooperative games that you get to put yourself into, it gives you the opportunity to do that, and it's just it's a lot of fun. It's as fun as you make it. That's for one or more players, and they just say one or more. I would cap that probably lower than 8 players. Having played this with me and my wife, it's a lot of fun. I could see how you could enjoy playing this with just one player, because just like those old books that they had, the choose your own adventure style books, it does the exact same thing, except for now you've got a variety of cards that you get to choose from. If you're like my wife and I, you'll probably just at the end of the game read through every single card and figure out what all the decisions that you could have made would have been. And because it is one of those things where after you play it through once, the replayability on this is not super high. I don't think. I could see if you weren't the type of person who's like me, who likes to go through and read all that stuff, if you wanted to reset all the cards from the beginning and play through it. But there's a lot of twists and turns that are just built into the plot as a whole that make it a lot of fun to experience for the first time. Not to mention all the cards, again, do come in those little chapter shrink wrap packages. And so once you've busted those open, you do have to go reset, reorganize everything. So it does become a bit of a hassle. It's, I don't think, as rewarding, but that first playthrough is a lot of fun, and it is quite the playthrough. It is several hours. I think what they say is plan for about an hour or more per chapter, and I could see it taking longer if you had a larger group. For my wife and I think it averaged about an hour each chapter, which made it great because then, like I mentioned, we could play it one weekend, set it aside, and then if we're really feeling like, hey, let's figure out what the story's all about, we could do 2 chapters at a time. You get a lot of bang for your buck. I don't remember the exact price of this. I remember it was cheap enough that I said, hey, let's just get this on a whim. So it had to have been like 20 or 30 bucks. I'll find out exactly what that number is. But again, I would recommend this. I think it's a fun game. I don't think everybody in my circle would enjoy this. I think that the people who would enjoy this the most are the people who really enjoy choose your own adventure. There's a cooperative game, and there's not as many cooperative games. I feel like this lends itself to that cooperative gameplay in a really fun and unique way where everybody does have to kind of come to a consensus. So those are my thoughts on House of Danger, the choose your own adventure cooperative card/board game. If you've played this, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. If you think I missed anything that's important and worth noting, please do point that out in the comments so that people who've come to this video can learn all about it. I hope you enjoy that. And if you're interested in learning more about card games, I've got more reviews for you to enjoy. So check those out as well. Like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.